All right, Rebels, today we're diving into the part of podcasting and content creation that almost everyone thinks they understand until the data exposes the truth. And to break it all down, I brought Alan Lazaros, CEO of Next Level University Podcast, a global top 100 show with more than 2,200 episodes and listeners in over 180 countries. This episode cuts deeper than surface level motivation. This isn't fluff. This is real, measurable, repeatable growth built on discipline, data, and the compound effect. If you're a creator, podcaster, entrepreneur, or someone grinding toward a long-term vision, this conversation will challenge you how to think about consistency, tracking your progress, not just more noise. So strap in, and it's time to get next level. Today, we are talking with Alan, the CEO of Next Level University Podcast, a global top 100 show with over 2,200 episodes and listeners in 180 plus countries. His story is powerful. After losing his father at age 2 and surviving a near fatal car accident at 26 himself, Alan rebuilt his identity, transformed his life, and dedicated his work to helping people reach the next level in life, love, health, and wealth. Alan, welcome to the show.
John, thank you for having me. I want to start with gratitude. I think it's important. I always joke. I say I started a little company 11 years ago called Alan Lazaros LLC, what you'll never learn in school but desperately need to know. And it was about personal development and self-improvement and personal growth. And it was crickets. No one cared. So I'm super grateful to be here. Things are rolling now, and it's very different than it was in the beginning, which I'm grateful for. But I try never to lose sight of where it started and how grateful I am to speak into the lives of other people. So
thank you. Thank you for coming on my show, onto this brand new show that I just kicked off in last month.
Thank you for having me. I am grateful to be a part of it, and I will not waste a second of anyone's time. I'm excited to dive in.
All right, cool. Before we get into the thick of it, let's get a little bit of background. After everything that you've overcome, what was the moment when you decided your life had to change?
Yeah, so the moment you're referring to is I was 26 years old, and there's kind of a backstory to this, but I got in a head-on collision. Dark winter night up in New Hampshire. I was born and raised in Massachusetts, but I was with my second cousin up in New Hampshire. Going to TGI Fridays, nothing crazy, no partying, no drinking. We were playing video games, actually. I was 26 at the time. I'm 37 now, hoping to hit puberty at 38, you know? I'm kidding.
It's okay. But I'm 49. I'm still waiting to hit puberty.
Yeah, you know it. Well, you've got the beard going, so you're good. But I was 26, and it was a dark winter night. The snowbanks were covering the yield sign. I was supposed to yield and I didn't. I ended up on the wrong side of the road and I hit a lift-kitted pickup truck head on, doing like 30 miles an hour. So it was pretty rough. Fortunately, no one was killed, because if anyone was, it would have been my fault. I was driving a 2004 Volkswagen Passat. I was big in investing back then, and I didn't want to buy a depreciating asset, so I just bought it in $5,000 cash, and I put all the rest of my money in Vanguard. And that car totally saved my life. I used to call it the tank. German engineered steel trap of a car, both airbags deployed. Everyone was okay, and the lift-kitted pickup truck was fine because I kind of went under it. But the reason why this was so powerful is when I was 2 years old in 1991, born and raised in Massachusetts, I had a father named John McCorkle who died in a car at 28. So I was 26 at the time, reflecting on my dad's death, and this is sort of the second chance he never got. Mm-hmm. And so I knew I needed to change my life after that. And by change my life, I took a drastic 360 assessment of my entire life. And I realize now, hindsight's 2020, I'm 37 now as of November 17th. So as of last week, I'm Alan version 3.7 is what I say. I'm a computer engineer, so everything's, in those kinds of numbers. And Alan version 3.7 has reflected back and kind of reassessed all this. It's very, very clear to me that I used to be externally successful at the expense of my internal fulfillment and meaning. And after 26, the second chance my dad never got, I reoriented my entire life around meaning and purpose and mission and fulfillment first and success second, which, by the way, I went from, so I have these 4 buckets of life. I'll be brief, but the first one is you're unfulfilled and unsuccessful. And that's where we all start. I was a cart kid and a busboy at a golf course, and I was miserable and I was unsuccessful. Then I became externally successful in corporate, did the traditional path of preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, corporate, the sort of American dream thing. And I did it very well, but I was unfulfilled internally. And then I flipped the script after my car accident, started my own company, as I mentioned, went broke, and so liquidated all my assets. And I was internally fulfilled as hell, happy, healthy, productive, loving my life, super meaningful work, but I wasn't successful. So I went from externally successful and internally unfulfilled to internally fulfilled but unsuccessful. And I think the 4th bucket is where we all want to get, which is took me till my 30s to get to. And quite frankly, statistically, most people never get here, where you are both externally successful and internally fulfilled because your work in the world is in alignment with what is meaningful work for you and what's aligned with your strengths and weaknesses. And so that's what I help people with now, podcasters, business owners, clients all over the world. It's some people come to me, they're already super successful, but it's not aligned with who they are. And other people come to me, they're not successful, but they love their work. They don't know how to scale and grow it. So the 4th bucket is the mountain that gets higher as you climb it. And so I'm grateful to have gotten there because most people don't. But now it's, okay, what else can I do with this?
A lot of people, like you said, a lot of people, myself included, is that 4th bucket that's the hardest to get into.
Yes.
It's the hardest because it's like there isn't a quote unquote manual to access or to read. And you and I both know school does not teach you how to get into that 4th bucket.
No way. And that's why that tagline in my first company was what you'll never learn in school but desperately need to know. Because I couldn't believe, I was a straight A student, right? So I couldn't understand why I didn't learn goal setting, why I didn't learn fulfillment, why I didn't learn about habits and metrics and character and courage, humility, vulnerability, like these character traits that matter so much. So I was very professionally developed, but not very personally developed. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's kind of the mission I'm still on. That's why Next Level University, we were told from a mentor, like, don't pick university because people have an aversion to school. But I think university to me means you are here to learn how to design a magnificent life that's unique to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. There's so much to dive in with that. So much. One of the big things is metrics, like goal setting and being holding yourself accountable to those goals. And when you don't reach those goals, you know something's amiss. And as a content creator, as a podcaster, you know that something's not working when people are not watching or listening to your content. What are some of the metrics that a podcaster early in their, I guess, podcasting career, what should they be looking at and what should they not be looking at?
Love it. Great question. So we started in March of 2017. My business partner, Kevin, and I had a podcast called Conversations Change Lives. He was my first guest about mindset and fitness. He was in great shape at the time. He still is, but better back then. He had a podcast called the Hyper Conscious Podcast, which means, so my tagline was great conversations with great people can change your life. His tagline was change the way you think, change the way you act, change the way you live. So I was his first guest. He was my first guest. And then we teamed up and it's grown into what's now Next Level University. But with 2,259 episodes, I can tell you this for certain because we do a group coaching program with podcasters, and I know podcasters from all over the world now yourself included, which I'm grateful for. But in the beginning, the problem is you think you're supposed to crush it when in the whole first year, from March 2017 to March 2018, we only had 1,054 listens. So we thought we were unsuccessful. Now that we produce over 70 podcasts, that actually isn't that bad of a start. You're just new. And now we get more than that in a day. But we're 9 years later, almost. In March of 2026 will be 9 years. And if you had sat us down, we would have said, I don't know why this isn't working. And if I could talk to me back then, I would say, it is working. That's 1,054 people. Like that, big things start small. So yes, the stats and the metrics indicate whether or not something is working or not. But I would look much more at growth rate than I would at the actual size of the numbers. So to me, the growth rate is what matters, because the compound effect and the snowball effect and the flywheel concept, like all these things, the law of compounding. So I'll give everybody this. And for anyone who doesn't like numbers, you're going to potentially shut off for this, so please don't. But I did this once with my business partner. Pull up a financial calculator, put $1 in it. Everyone can do this. Just don't do it in ChatGPT because it always gets it wrong for some reason. Yeah, they're going to work on that. But $1 in a financial calculator, grow it by 0.1% per day. 0.1% per day. That's 1/10 of 1% per day. 1/10 of a penny percent. Now, if you grow that for 50 years, you do 50 times 365, it becomes $84 million. Now, the crazy thing, and this is the part that blows people's minds, I do this with all my clients because I need them to understand the long game. The average life expectancy is 78. Okay, for women, it's even higher. So you got to play a long game in life because statistically speaking, you're going to have a long life. Nothing's guaranteed, but statistically speaking. Mm-hmm. So I always ask, how much do you think it would be if you take weekends off? So it's 83 million plus some, and I round it up to 84 because it's 83,500,000 something. So you round up 84 million. Okay, so if you and I both improve by 0.1%, grow our podcast, grow our life, grow our bank account by 0.1% per day, and we both do it for 50 years. We both start when we're 20, stop when we're 70, okay? You take weekends off and I don't. How much more money am I going to have?
I'd say easy, maybe like 10, 15 million more than what I would have.
Nice. Okay. So it comes to 439,000.
That's it.
So yeah, so I have 191 times the result just because I didn't take weekends off. And you can crunch the math on this. 365 times 50. I have a calculator right here because this blows people's minds, but this concept's so powerful because people think I'm nuts. I don't take days off. They think I'm out of my mind. It's like, no, I don't work 12-hour days every day, but I move the needle a little bit every single day. I just do. And I get a little better each day. And eventually you become really good at things. It's really wonderful. What I think people underestimate what they're capable of in the long term because we overestimate what we're capable of short term, and then we fail, and then we get disheartened. So 365 times 50 is 18,250 days. If you do 52 weeks a year times 5 days a week, it's 260 times the 50 years, it's only 13,000 iterations. And if you put this in a financial calculator, I'm telling you, it comes to $439,000 instead of the 84 million. 191 times the result just because you worked a little bit harder on those weekends.
That's crazy.
I don't want to encourage anyone to be a workaholic. That's not my goal. What I am saying is the opportunity cost of not being consistent, especially in podcasting, is huge.
So that kind of goes against from what a lot of podcasters get into the business for. They think that it's going to be this miraculous thing that they're going to put out onto the internet and their life is going to open up and they're going to have no work to do and all the downloads are going to come in. Where do we get this wrong?
Okay, such a good question, such a good conversation. First of all, that's not going to happen. We've produced hundreds of shows over the years. We have currently 70 shows that are still in production that we produce. So the first thing you got to understand is what's called pod fade. So of all podcasts ever produced, ChatGPT estimates it at 5 million podcasts ever produced. Less than 5% of them still have an episode within 30 days. Okay, so the majority of podcasts do not work and certainly don't make money and certainly don't last. And so a lot of that, I think that's encouraging. If you can last, you can really win, right? Mm-hmm. And when pod fade happens and podcasters go, where do you think those listeners go? They go to the next best thing in the industry, right? So the reason why we get so confused is because you see the anomalies. So we have one client. She was extremely successful on Instagram, wonderful human being, licensed marriage and family counselor, and she did her expertise is intimate relationships. We interviewed her on our show. It did very well. We're very grateful. Awesome. We're friends with her. She spoke at one of our events. She ended up being a client, and we launched her show. And in the first month, she was a top 5 show in relationships globally. And she had more listeners than us at the time. And we were like, whoa. But here's the thing. She was already semi-famous. So a lot of podcasters, we bootstrapped from the ground up to 26-year-olds, like starting a show. I think I was 27, 28 at the time. I think Kevin was 27, 28 at the time. But the point is we bootstrapped the whole thing. The whole first 2 years, we only made $13,000 total. Within the next 2 years, like the last 2 years, if you count 2024 and 2025, assuming we keep coming in the way I'm expecting in the next 40 days, it's crazy. The year's over in 40 days. We're looking at upwards of 800, 900,000. Which is big for a podcast. Yeah. So again, if compared to Amazon, we're not big, but compared to podcasts, that's the 1% of 1% of 1% of 1%.
Yeah.
So my point is, number one, survival bias. If you saw us at the beginning, you would not have heard of me, and I probably wouldn't even be here because it was crickets back then. But number two, a lot of podcasters start when they're already famous. And they already have backing and investment and affiliates and partners and strategic partners. So Joe Rogan's a good example of this. So he was on Fear Factor, he had comedy, and then UFC. He was already he was already in his 40s, I think, when he started. And the other piece of this too, it was either late 30s or early 40s. We went back to his very first episode on YouTube. And I'm not necessarily a huge fan, so don't associate with me. But at the end of the day, we needed to know, like, I went all the way back to the very first episode and it was garbage. So I think what people see is the polished product that was either already successful and had a lot of investment dollars right out of the gate, or someone who's been doing it like me for 9 years who is now successful. But there were so many hard yards in those early years that were just atrociously difficult to just bootstrap. I mean, 13 grand between 2 people in Massachusetts is abject poverty.
Yeah. Massachusetts is probably the same as up here in Toronto, and 13,000. You can barely eat.
Yeah. And luckily we both had, 6-figure jobs before that. And I had a bunch of money in Vanguard and money that I'd accumulated, but like he and I both lost our fathers. So his father left when he was young. My father died when I was 2, and my stepfather left when I was 14. So we had no trust fund, no generational wealth. Like, I had enough money saved and he had enough money saved to where we could make it work. But we used to think like, yeah, go all in on your dreams and all that. Now we're in our 30s and we're like, don't do that under any circumstances. It was horrible, especially if you have kids and a mortgage. Do not do it. Like we were a couple bodybuilding guys who didn't have, mortgages and kids and long-term relationships yet. And now that we're in our 30s, 37, he's 36. We don't recommend that for anybody. I mean, just it was really bad. It was tough.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm bootstrapping this podcast, and I bootstrapped my last podcast, which I lost. And I had Kevin on my last podcast, the Fitness Oracle. He came on.
Nice.
And we were talking about mental health and all that stuff. And it is tough. The 3 years that I had the Fitness Oracle, I made $0. No, Whoa. That's a lie. I made $90.
Whoa.
And it was 3 years of just dumping money into it. And mind you, I learned a lot. I
Yeah.
learned a lot. And very hard, like you said, very hard lessons.
Yeah.
And for you guys to be making $13,000 off of the first 2 years, that's a huge success. That's a major win.
See, that's exactly it. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable and honest, because I think I see a lot of people on the internet, and I was on with a client not long ago. This is 2 or 3 days ago. And she said, "Hey, can you tell me what you really think of this person? And, I'm thinking about this thing." And I said, honestly, they look really wealthy, but I think they're probably full of it. And there's a lot of this on the internet where if I fake looking really successful and then sell you something that helps you build success, then use that money to then make it look like I'm even more successful. There's a lot of that going on the internet. And Kevin and I have a really hard time with that because we've met so many people like yourself, John, over the years that, bootstrapping podcasters from the ground up, great people, heart driven, trying to serve and actually build a real company and a real brand. And it's just like, I hear horror story after horror story of I spent 20 grand on this coaching and it didn't do anything. And I spent 10 grand on this course and it didn't help. And it's like, first of all, just most of that stuff is horse crap. It's not real. Our group coaching program is $97 a month for 3 months, 97 times 3, which is like $294. And it's 10 people. It's profitable. We have a great program. And of course, it's not always going to stay that cheap, but we've done 20 groups, right? 20 groups, 5 years straight doing this program. Awesome. You can't charge 10 grand for something that someone can't make an ROI on that. Mm-hmm. I have one-on-one coaching. I have someone who's, near the beginning of their journey she's a photographer. She makes like $40,000 a year. And someone who's a multi-millionaire who's been in business for 21 years. I can't in integrity charge $10,000 to the person who only makes $40,000 and then have the ROI and say, "Oh, you'll make your money back." No, you definitely will with my price. But I think that there's a real disservice happening in the world where a lot of people are saying, "Well, you don't charge enough." When in reality, it's not really a sustainable business model. And what I try to help people with is I say if Apple suddenly decided to sell the iPhone for $12,000, everyone would go right to Android. They would go right to Android. Like, you can't just charge what you want. What are we doing here? So if you want to build a real brand and a real business, you have to get real customers, and you have to have a pain point that you solve, not only with your podcast as a service, but also things that you sell. So our podcast is the brand, but it's not the business. And we sell our products and services on the podcast for coaching, podcast production, all these different things. So you got to find sort of a way to add value to your listeners in a way where they pay to play, but you have to do it scalably that isn't an insane price that just hoodwinks people, because there's a lot of that happening.
What are your thoughts on podcasters who charge to come on their shows?
So I'm reluctant to share this, not because of anything other than pure cowardice. I think it's not a great business model. I think, so I have Next Level University, I have Business Growth University, I also have the Conscious Couples podcast. So I have 3 podcasts. If you include Kevin's podcast, Growth University, 4, and we produce 70 podcasts now. I think it's actually 77 if you include social media services. That said, and I have 23 business owners that I coach too. So if you include group coaching, Next Level Podcast Solutions, I'm not doing this to flex. I'm saying this so that what I say has credibility. Mm-hmm. We have 77 NLPS clients, 11 group coaching members. It was supposed to be 10, but someone had a co-host. I have 23 one-on-one business coaching clients. So we work with all these people. A lot of them are trying to build their dreams on the internet. And that's great. That's what we do. I would say that people who charge to have you on their show are already doing the formula wrong. And here, I'll explain why. The formula is passion into purpose into profit. So your passion is your obsession. It's the thing that you love the most in the world. So for me, it's fitness, personal development, and business. Health, wealth, and love. It's getting better every day. Okay, so that's my passion. That's a me thing. Great. Purpose is helping other people with it. So when I first started, I was a fitness coach. So my passion was fitness, and then I helped other people with fitness coaching. And the reason why is I had credibility there because I was in great shape. I didn't necessarily call myself a business coach yet because we didn't have a successful business yet. So it wasn't until we passed the $250,000 per year mark that I was like, okay, I'm going to be a business coach now because I have credibility now. I can't be full of it. So passion into purpose into profit. So I always say this to my clients. I say profit can't be first, but it definitely can't be 10th. Because you're competing with people where it's first. And so in the podcasting game, if profit is the first priority, you're already gonna lose by default because the free marketplace, podcasting, people are used to getting a lot of value for free. And so I always use Google as a metaphor. Google is 27, almost 28 years old. And most people have never spent $1 at Google. And Google Alphabet is one of the most successful companies in history. How is that possible? Well, YouTube is free and it has ads, but if you pay a premium, you get no ads. So there's a free to paid transition in the world that happened around 2000 to now. And it's basically been the last 25, almost 26 years where everyone's expecting a lot of value for free long before they pay any money. And so for us, we do that. I mean, we have a business model with 16 departments and the paywall's in the center. Group coaching isn't free, but it's deeper. So the top is inclusive, high breadth, high volume of people for lower value. It's still valuable, but lower value. The deeper in the business model you get, the more depth and customized the services get and products, and the more valuable they become and the higher the price. So my one-on-one coaching is the most sophisticated thing that we do. And it's only 23 people. But our listens, we've had, I think it's 1.4 million listens now across all of our podcasts.
Wow.
Right. So if you look at the conversion rate on that, that's wild. So people think, okay, so this is the way that I see it. The last piece. Treat it like a mall, metaphor. 100 people go into the mall. 30 of them might come into your store. 10 of them will walk around and not buy anything. 3 of them will buy something. 1 of them will work at the store and buy every day. And I think that that's the frame you need to have as a podcast. And if you're trying to monetize your guests, I think you're already a little bit off.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. To be completely transparent, my audience knows this. I did try to do the paywall in front, and it was just one. It felt wrong.
Nice.
And 2, it just came one wall after another. So I'm like, forget it. I'm just going to scrap this. And I think that's what, indie podcasters, I think that's what we have as I can say that we have that advantage towards these bigger podcasters where they have all this stuff and they have to go through all these other loopholes to change quickly. How easy is it for you to be able to do change quickly for your podcast, your business models and stuff like that?
Sorry to interrupt you. Love the conversation. I'm so eager because this is a passion of mine. We had to, so in those early years, there were opportunities for investment and equity and all that kind of stuff. And as much as I don't want this to come off as a flex, Kevin says I'm out of my mind because I turned down $1 million when I was broke. I did. And the reason why I think is obvious, but I now realize how weird that sounds. I didn't want anyone's hands in our cookie jar. So I don't ever want to be told what I can and can't do with my own show. And when you have a bunch of sponsorships and you have a bunch of investors, all of a sudden you lose the ability to run your own brand and your own company authentically. So no one can tell us what we can and can't say on our own show. And no one can tell us who we have to interview and who we don't. And I think that for me, that autonomy and freedom and liberty has stayed at the epicenter. And the reason why, quite frankly, is after that car accident, I realized My screensaver just went off. That's why I was distracted. But after that car accident, I realized, okay, I was in corporate and I was very successful, but I had a boss and a boss's boss and a boss's boss's boss. And I knew the CEO, and one of my main mentors was friends with him. And that was all great. But when I start my own thing, this time I'm going to make sure that it is entirely aligned with who I aspire to be, and no one will be able to tell me what I can and can't do with my own company. And Kevin and I were very clear about that out of the gate. So we've been very careful with strategic partnerships. We don't do them. We've been very careful about guests. We've had several that we regret. And we're very careful about any level of over-involvement is what we call it. Now, that said, that has made it way harder to grow. Like you can't, like, investment dollars is how a lot of companies grow. I mean, you see these companies grow like crazy. It's not a bootstrapped company. But at the end of the day, I think long term that will pay off forever because we get to do it our own way, and it's been really cool. So we have a lot of communities, and I think human connection, and community are I think those are the competitive advantage in the 21st century with AI and all this, because as more and more podcasters and business owners automate their social media and automate their responses and automate their DMs and automate, their emails, I actually think that human connection is going to be scarcer and scarcer. And I think that that's what my companies are drilling down on is I have a fitness group with 55 people in it that are in there every day, and I'm in there every day staying accountable. And I have a book club that I was on earlier today, totally free. I've been doing it for 5 years. I had 13 people in there, and we talked about Rationality by Steven Pinker and how to be more rational in our lives and how to be better leaders. And I have a masterclass that I do for free every single month, right? And so at the end of the day, I think, to answer your original question, it's really critical to decide in advance the way you want to succeed. And if liberty and freedom and autonomy and meaning is where you want to plant your flag, you're going to have to take the short-term L for the long-term W.
You said something there about automation and how it's taking away from the human aspect. And I do agree with you. I do believe that AI, if left run wild, I'm a sci-fi nerd. And
Same, by the way.
If we do let it go too far, it will take over. But on the other sense, I'm an indie podcaster. I have a full-time job. I have my responsibilities to my house, to my parents, to my family.
Good for you.
There's no time for me to be writing emails, to be messaging people on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, to be making posts, to be editing, to be scheduling every single day, to be lining up YouTube shorts and LinkedIn posts. I think we need to have a balance between artificial intelligence and the human connections. What are your thoughts on that?
That's exactly it. So the first thought, and I mean this mostly tongue in cheek, but we do what we do best so you can do what you do best. So it sounds like you might need a good production team behind you, being playful here. But the idea here is the balance between eliminate, automate, delegate, procrastinate, and what you and you alone should be doing. It's very, and trust me, I've screwed this up over the years. I was overly human connection and I was burning to the ground. Kevin and I were doing everything ourselves. And we knew our list, like he was taking phone calls with our listeners at 6 a.m. I mean, we overdid it. A lot of them became team members. It was really cool, but terrible, not scalable, right? Not scalable. We call it scale the unscalable. So we overswung that way, and then we overswung the other way, and we started, automated messages, and we lost it. And we lost some of our listeners. We rebranded the Next Level University. We got too big too fast. We had a 24-person team. We were growing 119% year over year. From 2020 to 2021, 2021 to 2022, 2022 to 2023, we grew 119% year over year. And this is when okay. So we tripled our company. When we hit, so here I can literally give you the numbers. I don't even mind. I'm a numbers guy. I think it's important. $0 the first year. You can't divide by zero. So I have one in my spreadsheet, $1. The second year was 13 grand, as I mentioned. Then it's 33, then 80. So we tripled. Then 80 went to 160 something. Then it was 260 something, 250 plus, rounding up. Then it was 300. So we lost it. Kevin went to Scotland, bought a BMW. Like we just started losing it. And I don't mean that negatively. Everyone who was broke for as long as we were, of course, is going to be like overly we had an app. I mean, we had 24 departments, 24 team members. Like we just overextended. Mm-hmm. And companies die for two reasons. They either grow too slow, which is 90%, or they grow too fast and they overextend and then they collapse on themselves. We were scared of the second one because in 2023, we only grew by 19% and then 11% in 2024. So we now only have a 16-person team that now has regrown to a 20-person team. So we're smarter now. We're smarter now. But my point of this, when you talk about the AI versus the human connection piece, I think through all of that mud and crawling through all that mud, not only did Kevin and I learn how to be leaders and how to lead a team, because when you say you have a 20-person team, I've come to learn that a lot of people don't really know what that means necessarily. And if I say some big names in the industry, like I'll never forget when I found out Tim Ferriss only has 4 people. And when I found out James Clear, I respect James Clear deeply, love his work. He has 3 people. And I remember thinking, oh, like we're doing it different. And it's called constraint theory. They're keeping positive constraints because they don't want their life to get any more hectic. I get it. You do you, but that's not what we're doing. We're going to scale. So we have a 20-person team, and I am constantly assessing and reassessing what can only be me and Kevin. Because when you are the face of the brand, and this is a fascinating 21st century study in general, because the personal brand is bigger than the brand now.
Yes.
And if you look at, like, I use Air Jordans as an example. It's like Nike Corp. Nike is the brand. Michael Jordan is the person, and Air Jordans is the product. And if it wasn't for all 4 of those, you have to trust the company, you have to trust the brand, you have to trust the person, and you have to trust the product. And it's this interesting thing. So you not only have to like me, so I playfully say this to Kev, I say, you got to sail away from me a bit. They have to like you and know you have my standards. Because at the helm, I'm not the likable guy. I'm the esoteric weirdo engineer who like never takes a day off and never will. And Kevin's like the likable, fun guy who's playful and all that. And he's funny and fun. And he says, I'm the most extraordinary regular guy, or whatever that he says. But I'm nothing like him, and that's okay. But I realized somewhere along the lines that we have to have the delegation, automation, and AI over here. We have to have me here, and we have to have him here. And we have to be very careful with that triangle because people don't want to hear from my EA. They don't. My EA's name's Laura. She's great. You've probably met Laura. Mm-hmm. Nobody of my listeners wants to hear from Laura. It's not their fault. They just don't know Laura. They want to hear from me. And they want to know that when they DM me on Instagram, they're going to hear from me. And so for you, you're in a different stage and you're not all in yet on your thing. And maybe one day you will be, and then I'll talk to you about, how to keep what's yours. But I've got my life boiled down to 5 things that can only be me. And everything else is eliminated, automated, delegated, or deleted. And I have the same for Kevin. And then we have Amy, who's kind of a conduit to us. We call it a triad. So Amy is Level Up Yourself. Kevin's Level Up Your Podcast, and I'm Level Up Your Business. And we have this sort of next level university, podcast growth university, business growth university thing happening. But ultimately, just be careful not to automate things that your listener connections, like connecting with real listeners, I think is the most important unsung hero in all podcast success.
It's interesting because I did try when I first launched it back in August, an AI campaign, if you will, mm-hmm. on YouTube. And I'm looking at this. Just before we started on here, I was looking at the stats.
Nice.
And it was roughly 50, 60 people watching it. But the lives and this kind of interaction, I've gotten into the thousands and hundreds. I'm like, okay, it's telling me the people just are not interested in the AI stuff anymore that much.
Yeah.
So what we've done here at Podcasters Business Insider is I'm using AI to give me the ideas, to give me scripts so I can talk to,
Yeah.
and it's working a lot better that way.
The AI should be a supplement to amplify who you are. It should not be a replacement. And except for if you want it to do some spreadsheet analysis and stuff, like, of course, like I was literally on with a client earlier and we did a ChatGPT search on, okay, we were talking about credit score. He works at a bank and we're doing something, financial certification in Canada and all this stuff. And I was like, how do they calculate credit score? I was like, let's just look it up. And we did. And it's different for Massachusetts where I live than it is where he lives in Ontario. But it's important to know that information. And now he has a list because he works as a customer service representative at a huge bank in Canada. And he has all these reasons why they should, people that come in should raise their credit limit. Because if you raise your credit limit and don't use it, your utilization of your credit is lower and then your credit score goes up. So he's killing it in sales, quote unquote, because he knows more than his counterparts about what actually people care about. And he gets what's called a match pop-up. It's like, hey, that person's credit limit is increasing. Well, they don't want to do it because they're afraid they'll use the money. And he says, well, if you can discipline yourself not to use it, it actually increases your credit score. And so it's just really cool what you can do with AI because it's the best learning tool on planet Earth, bar none. But if you use it to replace things that shouldn't be replaced, it's I think, detrimental.
I think so too. I've seen it myself. So it's I've shifted. It's just me.
Nice. Well, I think we all have to learn that stuff the hard way. And I know my clients by name. I know my book club members by name. I know my group coaching members by name. They get to hear from me. When you get an email, I actually had my EA, she sent an email on my behalf yesterday. I'm speaking at my alma mater next week. And she emailed them, and I appreciate it. She emailed them and said, hey, because they sent a bunch of times. When are you available to all the speakers? And she said, hey, I'm available at 3 p.m. or whatever. And then Alan. And I had to email her and I said, listen, I appreciate what you did there because I know you're trying to save me time. I really do because it's been crazy. And I'm grateful for that. But like, you can't sign me. I need you to sign as Laura. And she's like, no problem. All good. So my EA, even if it's, you'll never get best regards, Alan, unless it's actually me. I've actually started doing emails now, John. Hey, this is Alan. And then a little dash that says, I know it's weird, but I kind of have to say that now in the world of AI. It's actually me at a keyboard talking to you. It's been weird. And then you know what's even better is audio messages. Or you can do videos.
Yeah.
And that's been really powerful. I think people crave human connection so deeply on an unconscious level. And then when you are a person of significance, and I say that as much as it sounds pretentious, people feel even more special. And if you want to know a cheat code in business, I mean, make sure your clients and customers feel special and make sure you take good care of them so that they can take good care of you. And it's this wonderful sort of relationship. So your listeners are your people. Now, one last nuance to this, because in integrity, I can't. If you don't have high work ethic, high humility, and high self-improvement orientation, and you're not a good person, like, I'm not going to message you. I'm not going to get back to you. I'm not saying just because you listen to my show, I'm going to be like taking care of you. That's over. That's called martyrdom. And that was way back. And I learned that lesson the hard way. Don't bring the Trojan horse to the center of the castle, you know? Mm-hmm. But now that I know, I have like a filtration system. I call it UnMedSci. It's an acronym. If you have a high UnMedSci score, I don't go anywhere near you, including you, John, by the way. You got through. Like, you're green. You're green.
Awesome.
So we do green, yellow, red in my sort of group. And if Kevin marked you as green, otherwise this wouldn't be happening. So, really? And what that means is you're our absolute people. There's two types of people we don't deal with: bullies who put others down to feel bigger and better, and spoiled brats, people who want huge rewards for minimal effort and think that they're worthy by default with no effort. Like, those people we just don't work well with, so we just can that. So as long as you double down on human connection, belonging, and community with the right people, that have your core values, that stand for what you believe in, and then make sure the wolves stay out of the castle, you can crush it. And I had to learn that over the last 11 years. And if I could go back and talk to me, I would punch myself right in the face. And I'd say, Alan, you have got to figure this out, man. And I would say all this.
All right. Quickly, five round robin questions, if you don't mind, that I'm asking all my guests. If you could go back to day one of your journey, what would you tell yourself before you hit record or you broke your first rule?
It would be that. It would be as discerning as possible. Don't be afraid to be more discerning with who you associate with who you allow as a guest, with what you do and don't share, what you do and don't say. Be more discerning. Be a meaningful specific and not a wandering generality.
Cool. When motivation disappears and no one's watching, what keeps you showing up anyways?
The two things. One is reaching my full potential and helping others do the same. The other one is the fear of not reaching my full potential. And they both motivate the hell out of me. Like, I can't even fathom the idea of not giving this life all I have, because at that car accident, I knew I didn't. Yeah, I was successful and all that, but I knew I didn't put it all on the court. And I'll never let that happen again.
Awesome. What's the failure that punched you in the mouth but ended up building your backbone?
I had a team member who I will anonymously call a snake. And she was the best I've ever seen at something called covert emotional manipulation. And after seeing how messed up that whole thing was, she tried to poison the team against me. I knew I would never. I created the UNMEDSI acronym that I shared. Unstable, naive, manipulative, entitled, delusional, significance-driven, and immature. That UNMEDSI score that I created was actually a byproduct of that. So maybe I'll go back and thank her one day. I won't. But the point is after that, I was like, okay, this is the end. I'm never, ever working with anyone like that again.
Cool. How has your idea of success changed, and what does it really mean to you now?
If you look at the top countries on planet Earth and the top companies, and you study this, the U.S. is on top by far in the economy. And the majority of the top 10 most successful companies in history are from the U.S. And I'm not saying this about the U.S. What I'm saying is you can't lose yourself. And what I think success means, back in the day, I would argue, who's smarter, Bill Gates or Steve Jobs? And Microsoft versus Apple, and change the world. And Steve Jobs, the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. It's literally behind me. And that's all great, and they're visionaries, cool. They're not men that I aspire to be. Some of them are wealthy but not healthy, and some of them are wealthy but not healthy, and certainly not in love. And to me, success is about being healthier, wealthier, and more in love every year, and being a good person who's virtuous and who aims at the greatest good and doesn't just talk about it but actually walks it when no one's watching. And I am so alarmed at how much certain heroes, in quotes, have wildly disappointed me. And I'm pissed off enough to just be my own.
That's awesome. Same here.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, appreciate it.
If this mic went dead right after this question, what final message would you want every creator and podcaster to hear?
Nice. Okay. Define success for yourself. This is what it would be. We live in two worlds, all of us. We live in the real world and we live in the social world. The best way to describe this is the real world is the actual marriage. The social world is the wedding photos. Both matter, but syntax is everything. The actual marriage matters way more than the damn wedding photos. And I think when you put the social world and social validation and social media first and real life second, I think you're in so much trouble. And I was in my life when I've done that. I work really hard to focus on real success in real life with real people in the real world, health, wealth, and love, and then make it look nice, not the other way around. And I think when you do that, you will not only be more successful long term, definitely not short term, but long term, and you'll also be fulfilled, which I think is what everyone wants, is a meaningful, fulfilling life.
Very cool. Alan, thank you for sharing your truth behind everything. Other than the 5 questions that I asked you, I think I asked one question that was on my list to ask. Everything else is just, I love these conversations because one rolled right into another. You're such an easy person to interview. I'm grateful for you and for you and Kevin, and you guys are just amazing. Thank you for coming on the show.
John, it was an absolute pleasure. Anytime you want to do a round 2, just let me know. Thank you so much for having me, and you are definitely our people. So I understand why Kevin gave you a green, and I look forward to our paths crossing again for sure.
100%.
Cool.
All right, Rebels, remember this: your voice has power. Every episode you record, every story you tell, every time you hit publish, you're not just making noise, you're making history. Don't wait for permission. Don't play small. The world needs your voice, raw, real, and unapologetic. Keep creating, keep pushing boundaries, stay bold, stay sharp, and as always, long live the rebellion.